Am I the a-hole for exposing my brother's secret MLM scam at a family reunion? Hey everyone, I really need to know if I'm the a-hole here because things have gotten way out of hand, and now my whole family is mad at me. So, a little background. I'm 32F, and I've always been super careful with my money. I went to college for accounting, graduated top of my class, and landed a pretty sweet job at a financial firm. My brother, Jack, 35M, not so much. Jack has always been the get-rich-quick type, constantly chasing some new scheme or the next big thing. A few years ago, Jack started getting involved in MLMs. You know, those multi-level marketing schemes where you sell overpriced products and recruit others to do the same? Yeah, those. First, it was some health juice that supposedly cured everything from the common cold to cancer. Then it was essential oils, and now he's deep into some cryptocurrency nonsense. Anyway, last month was our annual family reunion. My parents are in their late 60s, retired, and living off their pensions and savings. My sister, Emily, 28F, is a teacher, and my cousin Sarah, 29F, is a nurse. We all get together once a year, and it's usually a good time. But this year, things took a turn. Jack showed up to the reunion in a brand new Tesla. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Teslas, but I knew Jack couldn't afford one. He barely has any savings, and his credit score is crap. So, I was immediately suspicious. He starts bragging about how he's making tons of money with his new business venture and how he's going to be a millionaire by the end of the year. Everyone was eating it up. My parents were so proud. Emily was asking him for tips, and Sarah was considering joining him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried to pull Jack aside and ask him about it, but he brushed me off and told me to stop being a hater. That night, I did some digging. I found out that Jack was involved in a new MLM that sells some kind of miracle supplement. The company's website was full of red flags, outrageous income claims, mandatory purchases, and expensive training programs. It was clear that Jack was not making money from selling the product, but from recruiting others into the scheme. The next day, during brunch, Jack started giving a presentation about his business opportunity. He even had brochures and samples of the supplement. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I stood up and called him out in front of everyone. I told them it was a scam, that Jack was involved in an MLM, and that he was making money off them, not with them. I showed them the evidence I found online, including stories from people who had lost thousands of dollars. Everyone was shocked. My mom started crying. My dad looked furious, and Jack turned bright red. He called me a jealous a-hole and stormed out. The rest of the reunion was super awkward, and everyone left early. Now, my family is split. My parents are grateful that I exposed the scam, but they're also upset that I did it so publicly. Emily and Sarah are mad at me for ruining the reunion and embarrassing Jack. And Jack? He hasn't spoken to me since. So, AETA for exposing my brother's MLM scam at the family reunion? Update. Thanks for all the responses. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. I've got a bit of an update, and boy, things have escalated. A few days after the reunion, I got a call from my mom. She said Jack had come to their house, furious, and demanded they loan him $10,000 to invest in his business. My dad refused, saying they didn't have that kind of money to throw around, especially not on something so risky. Jack lost it and accused them of never supporting him. He stormed out and hasn't been back since. But here's where it gets crazier. I started getting messages from random people on Facebook, people I didn't even know, accusing me of ruining their lives. Turns out Jack had recruited a bunch of people into this MLM, and when the company found out I was calling it a scam, they terminated Jack's account. Now, everyone he recruited is out their initial investment, and they're blaming me. I felt terrible, so I decided to dig deeper into this company. What I found was even worse than I thought. It wasn't just a typical MLM, it was a full-blown Ponzi scheme. The company was under investigation by the SEC, and there were reports of the founders fleeing the country with millions of dollars. I compiled all this information and sent it to my family, explaining that Jack was lucky to get out when he did, even if it was involuntarily. But instead of calming things down, it made everything worse. Now, Jack is saying I've ruined his life and cost him his big break. He's also saying I need to pay back everyone who lost money because of me. Yeah, right. Like I'm going to cover for a scam. My parents are stuck in the middle. They see Jack's point of view but also understand that I was trying to help. Emily and Sarah are still mad at me, saying I should have handled it privately. Honestly, I don't know what else I could have done. To top it all off, I found out Jack has been posting about me on some shady forums, calling me a toxic sibling and saying I'm out to destroy his dreams. He even shared my work info, and now I've got weirdos emailing me about investment opportunities. So yeah, things are a mess. I've been talking to a lawyer about potential defamation, but I don't know if I want to go down that road. It's all just so exhausting. But hey, at least now I know who my real friends are. My colleagues have been super supportive, and even a few of my old college friends reached out to say they're proud of me for standing up against the scam. So, there's that. Still, I can't help but wonder, was there a better way to handle this? Should I have just kept my mouth shut and let things play out? Maybe then I wouldn't be public enemy number 1 in my family. Update 2. Alright, it's been a few more weeks, and things have taken yet another wild turn. Buckle up. So, Jack finally reached out to me, but not to make amends. Instead, he sent me a demand letter from his lawyer, claiming I owe him $50,000 for defamation, emotional distress, and loss of income. I almost laughed out loud when I read it, like, are you kidding me? I immediately forwarded the letter to my lawyer, who assured me it's a baseless threat and that Jack doesn't have a leg to stand on. But still, it was stressful. I mean, who does that to their own sister? Meanwhile, my parents have been trying to play peacemaker, organizing a family meeting to clear the air. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I agreed to go for their sake. The meeting was a disaster from the start. Jack was still adamant that I was in the wrong and refused to acknowledge any of the evidence I showed him. He kept insisting that the MLM was legitimate and that I had destroyed his only chance at success. My mom cried again, my dad tried to stay neutral, and Emily and Sarah just kept glaring at me. Finally, I'd had enough. I stood up and said, "Look, I'm sorry this went down the way it did, but I'm not going to apologize for trying to protect you all from a scam. Jack, you need to take responsibility for your own actions and stop blaming me for your poor decisions." Then I left. I thought that would be the end of it, but nope. A couple of days later, I started getting anonymous threats in my mailbox. Weird, cryptic messages telling me to watch my back and pay what you owe. I reported it to the police, but without knowing who's behind it, there's not much they can do. And then, the final twist. I found out Jack had been secretly taking out loans in my parents' names. They only discovered it when they started getting calls from debt collectors. We're talking over $100,000 in loans. My parents were devastated and immediately confronted Jack, who, surprise, surprise, denied everything. But the evidence was clear. He had forged their signatures and used their personal information to secure the loans. Now, my parents are pressing charges, and Jack's facing potential jail time. Emily and Sarah finally came around, realizing just how deep Jack had sunk. They apologized to me for not believing me sooner, and we've started rebuilding our relationship. As for Jack, I don't know what's going to happen. Part of me feels sorry for him, but another part of me is just so angry at how he manipulated and used our family. It's a mess, and I'm not sure it'll ever be fully resolved. Aida? Maybe in some people's eyes, but I can live with that. At least I can sleep at night knowing I tried to do the right thing. Update 3. Hey everyone. It's been a few months since my last update, and things have gotten even crazier, if you can believe it. Here's the latest. After my parents pressed charges against Jack, he went radio silent for a while. No one heard from him, and we assumed he was laying low. I focused on getting my own life back on track, but the whole situation was always at the back of my mind. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a local news station. They were doing a story on MLM scams and had heard about my situation. At first, I was hesitant to get involved. The last thing I wanted was more drama. But after thinking about it, I realized it could be a good opportunity to warn others and maybe get some closure. So, I agreed to an interview. The news piece aired about a week later, and it was pretty well received. They did a great job highlighting the dangers of MLMs and included interviews with other victims. I felt a sense of relief, like I had finally done something positive out of this whole mess. But of course, Jack didn't see it that way. He showed up at my apartment the day after the story aired, banging on my door and demanding to be let in. I refused and called the police, but he was gone by the time they arrived. It was terrifying. I knew I couldn't keep living like this, constantly looking over my shoulder. So I filed for a restraining order. While all this was happening, my parents decided to sell their house and move to a smaller place. The financial strain from Jack's loans was too much, and they needed to downsize. It was heartbreaking to see them go through that, but they assured me it was for the best. They found a nice condo in a 55-plus community, and they seemed to be adjusting well. Then, a few weeks ago, we got the news that Jack had been arrested. He was caught trying to flee the country with a fake passport. The authorities found him at the airport with a suitcase full of cash and crypto wallets. It was like something out of a movie. He's now facing charges for fraud, forgery, and attempted evasion. He's looking at serious jail time. With Jack in custody, my family finally started to heal. Emily, Sarah, and I have been spending more time together, and our relationship has never been stronger. We've been supporting our parents through the sale of their house and helping them settle into their new place. It feels good to be a united front again, but the twists don't end there. During the investigation, it was discovered that Jack had been involved in more than just MLMs. He was part of an elaborate network of online scammers, targeting vulnerable people with various schemes. The FBI got involved, and they're working to track down everyone else involved. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. Every time we think we've reached the end, there's more. On a brighter note, I've been getting a lot of support from the online community and my coworkers. My company even offered me a promotion, recognizing the resilience and integrity I showed through this ordeal. It feels good to have some positive recognition after all the negativity. As for Jack, his trial is set for next month. My parents have decided to attend, despite the pain it will bring. They want to see justice served and hope it will bring some closure. I plan to be there too, to support them and to finally close this chapter of our lives. So, that's where things stand now. It's been a wild ride, and I'm sure there are still more twists to come. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. Thanks to everyone who's supported me through this. Your messages and advice have meant the world to me. I'll update again after the trial. Hopefully, by then, we'll have some real closure and can start looking forward to a brighter future. Aita, maybe I was harsh, but I stand by my actions. Sometimes you have to be the bad guy to protect the ones you love. Final update. Hey everyone, this will be my last update on this saga. A lot has happened since my last post, and I finally feel like we're reaching the end of this wild journey. First off, Jack's trial took place last month. It was an emotional roller coaster for everyone involved. Seeing him in court, facing the consequences of his actions, was both heartbreaking and a relief. My parents, Emily, Sarah, and I were all there, and the courtroom was packed with other victims and their families. It was clear that Jack's schemes had affected a lot of people. The prosecution laid out a damning case, detailing not just his involvement in the MLM, but also the broader network of scams he had been a part of. They presented evidence of the forged documents, fraudulent transactions, and testimonies from people who had lost their life savings. It was tough to listen to, but necessary. Jack's defense tried to paint him as a misguided entrepreneur, but it didn't hold up. The jury found him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison with no chance of parole for at least 10 years. It was a harsh sentence, but given the scope of his crimes, it felt justified. My parents were devastated, but they understood it was for the best. Jack needed to face the consequences of his actions to have any chance of redemption. After the trial, things started to calm down. My parents sold their house and settled into their new condo. They've been taking it day by day, and while it's been an adjustment, they're finding their footing. Emily and Sarah have been amazing, stepping up to help them with the transition. It's brought us all closer together. In a surprising turn, we received a letter from Jack. He wrote to us from prison, apologizing for everything he had done. It was a sincere and heartfelt letter, acknowledging the pain he had caused and expressing regret for his actions. He asked for our forgiveness and said he wanted to use his time in prison to turn his life around. It was the first time I had seen any real remorse from him, and while it didn't erase the hurt, it was a start. I decided to write back, and over the past few weeks, we've been exchanging letters. It's a slow process, but it feels like we're starting to rebuild our relationship. He has a long road ahead of him, but I'm hopeful that he can use this time to reflect and change. Meanwhile, I've been focusing on my career and personal life. The promotion at work has been challenging but rewarding. I've also started volunteering with organizations that help victims of financial fraud. It feels good to give back and use my experience to help others avoid the same pitfalls. The support from friends, colleagues, and even strangers has been incredible. It's reminded me that there are good people out there, and that despite the tough times, there's always a way forward. My family and I have a long way to go, but we're healing and moving on.